are kind of in a pickle. I know you probably have seen the Sydney Sweeney campaign for American Eagle. And that's probably why you're even listening to this episode. Well, for some of you. A lot has been said about this, so it's not like I'm bringing a new topic to the table, but it's so outrageous that I had to table the topic that I was going to discuss for this episode. I literally had to just film it another day because the audacity of this campaign, the fact that the state of affairs, dude, it's so bad. I feel like today we're going to have to talk about some plans, strategies, what we can actually do to combat this bullshit, because I really don't want to be just talking about how outrageous this is and leave it alone, because I don't think we have a choice anymore. That's my kind of take on this. If you're confused, what I'm talking about is this campaign by American Eagle for basically the new denim collection or some shit like that. It involves Sydney Sweeney, and I'm gonna tell you right away that at first when I saw people talking about it on Twitter, I thought, oh, what did she do again in terms of like how much of a incel crowd type of campaign is it? But I was kind of expecting something sexual on that head, because people genuinely up in arms a lot when it comes to those things, and I think that like I don't really want to talk about that anymore. But I saw the videos on Twitter without sound, and I saw a bunch of people talking about eugenics, and I was like, what does eugenics have to do with genes? There is literally no way that this is in any way eugenics adjacent. And then I turned the sound on.
Genes are passed down from parents to offspring, often determining traits like hair color, personality, and even eye color. My genes are blue.
Sydney Sweeney has very genes.
My body's composition is determined by my genes. Hey, eyes up here.
Sydney Sweeney has very genes.
Yeah, if you're thinking maybe it was a mistake, which obviously a huge company with a big PR firm and marketing people working for them, of course it wouldn't be a mistake, but let's assume that it is, right? You're just trying to give them benefit of doubt, and you're like, maybe it's a mistake, right? Maybe they don't mean this play on words of genes with a G and genes with a J. Maybe they don't mean it, right? I personally thought right away, I was like, oh God, okay. I mean, I know that eugenics is an American invention. I understand that. I know that even the big H from Germany was really inspired by a lot of the things that were done in North America, including Canada and their camps and stuff like that. Like, I understand this, but this being so blatant is so jarring. If you're one of those people who are like, it could have been a mistake, they also had Sydney Sweeney put up like really big posters of her, or a poster on one of the streets, you know. Sydney Sweeney has great genes with a G, and then they crossed it out and wrote it with a J. So in case you were wondering if maybe it was a mistake, it's not. They doubled down on it, basically. We know for a fact that this is what they meant, okay? I have also commented on one of the videos on TikTok something about how we need to buckle up because eugenics is really, like, they're trying to manufacture consent in the public to do whatever they want with whomever they want to do it to. So we're kind of in a really dangerous time right now. And someone commented being like, this campaign, like, how does no one realize that this campaign is literally an homage or inspired by Brooke Shields' ad for Calvin Klein? And first and foremost, I know this Calvin Klein campaign has been brought up in the public's eye again and again in recent years because Brooke Shields was talking about it and doing all the retrospection really publicly. So I am aware of that, especially because it's in my wheelhouse as someone who works on YouTube and does like commentary videos from time to time, right? This isn't news to me, but it also only makes it worse. I don't understand why they brought it up as if it's like a gotcha of some sort. Yes, it's a reference to a very pedophilic ad. Would you want me to be less mad about that advertisement now because of that? Like, what are you talking about? In any case, this is a horrible reference, and one of the things that I got even more pissed off about is the fact that Sydney Sweeney also decided to post a video that directly references Lolita in the same vein as Sabrina Carpenter did, except it's even more obvious. Sabrina is kind of like, maybe like you can kind of, try and convince yourself that it's not a reference to that. You can really try hard to do that if you really love Sabrina. But with Sydney, this is so obvious that I don't understand why a 27-year-old woman is referencing so many films and advertisements where a child is being exploited in a sexual manner. What is going on? I don't understand how disgusting do you have to be to do that? I just don't dude, all of this is happening at the same time as I'm actually preparing a really big video about the Love Witch and about pink pill content, the whole Princess Collarbone situation, plus the Love Witch breakdown, and kind of using that to and show the trajectory of somebody who is accepting the patriarchal world as is and tries to get a piece of something better within it instead of changing the world or changing the structures that we're functioning within. Dude, I genuinely this is just so it's just a lot. And and also this same video is going to be showing historically and economically how the trad wife living close to nature and being one with nature is connected to the occult, the Western esoteric traditions, and how they connect to white supremacy and how they lead to this consent within the public that is really easy to leverage later on for political figures, the same way as it was done in Germany in 1930s, even 1920s. But I mean, it was a long time coming. It started in 18 something. It was kind of blossoming in the 1890s already. So if you guys are interested in specifically how this Aryan bullshit, which by Aryan bullshit I mean this white supremacist idea of someone being better than others because they're white or because they have blue eyes or they have blonde hair, whatever the hell, how these ideas are being combined with politics and somehow with spirituality, how you can meet somebody who's very spiritual and into yoga and shit, and if they're white, they could also be really disgusting eugenicists and stuff like that. How does that even combine in one mind? I recommend looking into the occult traditions, Western esoteric type of shit, and more specifically this book called The Occult Roots of Nazism by Nicholas Goodrick Clark. He was trying to kind of explain why white supremacy and Nazi bullshit keeps popping up and why it's specifically so rampant in Europe and in America. He's kind of explaining the whole formation of the ideological kind of base of this particular flavor of white supremacy. It's really, really troubling to actually get into the nitty-gritty of this and learn more about how these things come about. For example, how the hell do you as a grown person just believe bullshit, pseudoscientific bullshit, right? How do you just become this ridiculous type of person who just believes anything as long as it makes them the superior race or some shit like that? Because the thing is, the ideas and the ideals of what race even is in terms of description came from pseudoscientific things. It was one of the biggest contributions to pseudoscience, and it was done by Nazis and perfected by them. It started with folkish or Volkish people in Germany, in Austria, at least this particular branch of it, right? They got inspired by eugenics from America and this type of competitions that they had in America, where they would try to find the fittest family in the neighborhood or in the city by having these competitions where you would get points for being white, for example, and you would get points for looking a certain way, for example, height and stuff like that. You would also get points for your family lineage not dying young, the longer you live, whatever. So basically, it was genuinely a eugenics competition. The dog just keeps on barking. I'm sorry, you guys, but it's not my dog barking, so I can't do anything about it. Anyway, this is not an ideal topic for conversation right now because, well, it's the topic that we have to discuss. It's just I'm really it is a bit depressing and disappointing that we don't really have a choice to not talk about things like that. The fact that this ad was done with an actress that has really high publicity right now, like they knew that this ad would be seen by a lot of people, and the fact that they did it anyway, the fact that they specifically wrote that copy for her to perform in the ad, the fact that they genuinely thought that this was appropriate in any shape or form is really something. It is really funny though, the way people are pointing out that her name does have SS in it, like Sydney Sweeney, which perfect. It actually describes it perfectly. Honestly, I do want all of you to understand that if someone in my comments right now is going to come in and be like, this isn't that serious, it's not that deep, or that she should get a break, or that she's like totally fine and this is not eugenicist or racist or very much Nazi behavior, I want you to understand that I'm gonna do anything and everything in my power to point to actually brand her as a Nazi now, because this is something I do not have any tolerance for, and I don't think that anyone else should have tolerance for. Tolerance as a concept, it ends somewhere, and this is where it ends. For me, I'm honestly horrified by the fact that this is happening, because it's also happening at the same time as we're starting to see a lot of long COVID effects in people, which means that the government is trying to manufacture consent to en masse get rid of people who are going to be suffering with long-term disabilities because of their negligence and their mismanagement and their economic interests that have nothing to do with the good of the people or for the people. I will discuss all of these like connections with occult and whatever, and how you can go from just talking about divine, feminine, and masculine, and how you can end up being a fucking Nazi without even noticing it. I will make a whole a video breaking that down on my main channel, but combination of what we're dealing with right now is really, really alarming. And I want you guys to kind of work with me here. If you have any experience in, actually, let me explain to you what I'm kind of worried about. And I have talked about this in, I think, the last episode, that I think that the whole culture war actually is important. And I don't mean the one between liberals and Republicans, or Democrats and Republicans. Sorry, the Canadian jumped out with the liberal. I mean the whole actual leftists and everyone else. We have a really big problem with how much money is being funneled into not only in articles or university organizations, museums, really big charities or organizations that give grants out to artists and stuff like that. All of those things that are more infrastructural, like anything that actually has a very well-oiled production of propaganda, it's all right-wing stuff. You probably, and I brought it up before, that we have a really big issue with the fact that we have basically tons, and I mean tons, of disgusting rhetoric being multiplied every single day and being pushed by companies like YouTube and stuff like that on this platform. And I think that the only way to go around it is to be paying to actually have the information be spread. And I believe that honestly, we need to talk about how there's no media networks that are specifically working to combat this issue. And a lot of influencers who are right-wing are getting funded by all of those politicians whose interests, and not even politicians, it's mostly like billionaires who are funneling that money in politics and into other organizations and influencers, to the point where there's literally no way in hell we can compete with that. And I do understand that that is the case, even if we are going to be making some kind of organization and pulling some funds or some shit like that. However, I feel like there is a huge need to actually organize in that sense and have different sectors of media production. Like, for example, some media production that is literally entertainment, that's going to combat the Red Scare bullshit, and that's going to make this manufactured consent that the government is working on right now harder to achieve by combating those like ideas of eugenics and other things like that, by integrating it into the content that's made for fun, like things that people watch for fun, being made by people who are not somewhat subconsciously making people lean right. Have like create force a pipeline to better, saner politics that involves empathy and humanitarian type of approach. Because the thing is, like, whenever I talk to people here and they're like, have like really negative reactions to having conversations about, you know, people not being as bad as they think they are, or like having conversations about how people could behave better if the system was better. There's a lot of like this nihilism that is aiding all of those assholes at the top. Like, the billionaires love us for giving up if we give up, you know? And this is kind of the thing here, that it needs to be organized. I think that this is the issue that we're having, is that it's very decentralized, and it's good to a certain extent. It's still going to be decentralized anyway, because people oftentimes are not going to have the exact same opinions. They're not going to have exact same goals, but having a way of making sure that creators on platforms stay here longer, producing more content through funding them somehow, through maybe creating events and other things like that that are for community building and stuff, that specifically centers around building a more aware and educated society, is the way to go. I really think that the reason why there's so many idiots out there is because we are genuinely getting dumber. And it is because we are so deprived of actual education. We're deprived of time to even absorb the education that we do have access to. It's getting ridiculous. So that's why I was talking about how you guys should work with me on this one. If you have more knowledge as to what kind of media networks have been created before that worked in a similar manner that I'm describing. Like, I know that there's probably not a lot of examples in the West, at least, but I'm sure that you guys have more, like some of you have some information that can point me in the right direction, because this shit needs to be organized and it needs to be done like fucking yesterday, because the fact that this is so blatant is so disturbing. The fact that they're not even trying to pretend, like they're not trying to create the fourth fucking Reich, is really something. I genuinely do not feel like giving up, only because I genuinely think that a society that requires slave labor does not deserve to exist. So we have to fix this unless we want to perish, you know? So if you guys have any information or you have any ideas, let me know, because having one streamer who is leftist but very tepidly so, like Hassan, is not enough. And I don't mean to like criticize him harshly, because I think he's a positive influence, and I think that it's great that he's out there and he's doing his thing, but I really don't think that this is enough, and we need to organize something to actually produce more accessible media that kind of is not just like, there should be the educational sector that makes like fun educational video. There should be the one that's specifically for academia, so for people who are already academics and they can't participate in the conversation that's a lot more academic, have like stuff produced for them. We have to have something that is entirely not related to serious topics, but are produced in the image of a normal, sane person who doesn't think that someone who's got a disability needs to be killed. You know what I mean? I'm telling you, this is important. This is my 2 cents for now, because I'm really horrified by the situation. I did not think that it's going to escalate this quickly. I knew it was coming. I'm going to be real with you. It's getting real spooky out there, like really uncomfortable and scary. And the systems that we have in place are not doing anything to combat this, because they are built to uphold the system that becomes fascism when it is in crisis, which is capitalism, right? We're kind of in a cycle we're not going to get out of if we're not going to actually figure something out. And like expeditiously, is that the word? Expeditiously, quickly. Anyway, dude, it's kind of really difficult to change the topic now. I really don't know how to. I'm glad to see that a lot of people are not cool with this ad, I'm really happy to see that a lot of people are kind of getting how dire the situation is because of this ad. This could be a catalyst to actually starting to think more about what state of affairs we're in, because I feel like collectively people are looking at politics as politics and culture as culture, media as media, as separate categories that have nothing to do with each other. And this ad was so egregious, it was so in your face. I think it has created a wave of sudden understanding of what the fuck is happening. And I hope that it's going to be utilized, that it's not going to go to waste, because this is so horrific. And I also saw a bunch of people on Twitter, and Twitter is a cesspool of fucking right-wing bullshit. But a lot of people there were kind of commenting on how, oh, you know that Sydney Sweeney is actually hot because women hate her. And it's like, what the hell are you talking about? This isn't about anything related to, it's not even about the male gaze. If that's what you're referring to, like some kind of approval of men or some kind of like being like attractive or something, that has nothing to do with attractiveness. And the fact that people can't compute that, those fuckers can't comprehend that, is low-key a good sign that, you know, they are dumb enough that we could actually figure out how to deal with them. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're not sharp, they're not gonna pivot, they're gonna stay right where they are, which is very, very convenient. I'm really trying hard to think of anything that's like a little bit more positive here, because I don't like how this episode is very much depressing. I guess the positive here is that we know it's been done before. We know we could do it again. We know that there were and there are places that function differently and that don't allow this type of rot in their society. But yeah, the methods, they're gonna have to be a lot more direct and a lot more organized. Oh, just remembered also, I was going to talk about this in a few weeks ago when the news just came out about Spotify. I know that right now people are kind of finding out about it, but it's because some bands took down their music from Spotify. So people are starting to actually talk about the fact that, about Spotify's profits and where they go and how they're being used. But I kind of started thinking about it a couple of weeks ago when I started to look into other RSS hosts. An RSS host is basically like a host of your podcast. So you could place it on different platforms and it would automatically update when you update your podcast. You know, like whenever you release a new a new audio file, it would automatically show up on any and all platforms that you subscribe to, in terms of like that you requested to have your podcast on. Now, Spotify has always been shit for podcasters if they are not Joe Rogan or some shit like that. Once again, an idiot with a mic. It's absolutely insane how many dumb people we allowed to yap in front of everybody. It's absolute insanity. But today, I'm glad I can report that the stock of Spotify dropped significantly. And I do want to say that to those of you who are like, well, we're kind of even in a worse situation because the American Eagle stocks have gone up. And I want to tell you right away that it is the meme effect. You know, kind of like how a bunch of losers buy online, like digital currency, like coins, like Haktua coin, whatever the hell. It's basically the same type of effect where something becomes a meme or becomes really popular in really specific circles and then the stock jumps. And I'm gonna look at it right now. They're down. Okay, see, that's what I'm saying. So they went up a lot yesterday on Monday, July 28th, and today they have already dropped. So it's not gonna stay like this for longer than like 2 weeks max, which is really, really interesting considering that this jump that they are experiencing right now on July 28th, they have had their stocks a lot higher in January this year. So this low stock situation is relatively recent for them, and this action is not gonna do anything for them, to be fucking honest, because even though they got the meme effect where in a couple of days their stock went up $1 or $2, they're gonna get a huge crash in a couple of months when the fact that they're not selling as many products anymore is gonna hit, because the people who brought up the stock value are people who are who love stocks in general and who are a very specific demographic, who is not the demographic that buys their jeans. So I don't know what they were thinking. I think that, are they trying to go bankrupt? Maybe that's what it is. Or maybe I'm overestimating people's ability to actually not fuck with companies that are literal Nazis. I don't know. Maybe I'm expecting too much from the public. Who knows? We'll see. So Spotify themselves actually had a 11.5% crash on Tuesday. And it's literally like the day that I'm filming this. I am looking into a new RSS host, as well as I don't think we're going to have our podcast on Spotify anymore, which is a shame because they have a really big reach. However, I also think that honestly, Spotify is horrible for podcasters, again, who are not like number one in the country or some shit like that, because basically you don't get paid to get monetized just to be able to make money off of what you post. You have to get 2,000 people stream your podcast within 30 days, and they need to be all individual people. So it can't be like, oh, you get the same 1,000 people to stream your podcast, and like, for example, they watched like 4 of your episodes, so it's 4,000 different separate views. That doesn't count. They need to be like 2,000 separate people. On top of it all, you need to get, and this is the one that really gets you, you need to have 10,000 consumption hours, 10,000 consumption hours in the last 30 days, which, just to give you a perspective, right? Because the thing is, like, yes, everyone starts somewhere and everyone's going to also have to arrive at least getting some type of views to be actually monetized. This is pretty normal. However, just to give you an example, YouTube requires you to have 1,000 subscribers just in general. Like, you just need to hit 1,000 subscribers, and you have to hit 4,000 watch hours, which is basically, but that 4,000 hours, you have to hit it within the year. So you have a whole year to actually get it done. So even if you release videos that don't perform that well at first, as soon as you start getting your first a few thousand views here and there, and especially if you start getting them on the regular, you are going to get monetized. And even though you're not making that much, you're still making something off of what you are providing to YouTube. Even if it's like $2 or $3 for a video, you're at least getting the cut of revenue that YouTube is getting from having your videos on their platform. With Spotify, you need 10,000 consumption hours within a month. YouTube gives you 4,000 you need to reach within 12 months. Do you understand how ridiculous it is to expect a podcast to hit 10,000 hours every 30 days, especially when they're starting out, or especially if they have a more niche type of audience? Basically, they made it so most people don't make anything off of their podcast. They're basically made it so maybe 1% of the podcasters are making money on Spotify. So all the other, like 99% of other podcasts that people are watching, but they're watching 5,000 people on one podcast, 5,000 on another, they basically make, like, all of the money that they make there, they take for themselves. Do you understand how impossible of a task it is? All it does is encourages really poor product, really brain dead type of podcast. That's why you see so many podcasts that just read "Am I the asshole?" on a podcast and call it a day. And I'm not saying that this can't be entertaining. It can be, but most of it isn't. Most of the podcasts that do that, the entertainment value is not in the comments, it's not in the reactions, it's not in the people who are talking about it because they are comedians and they're good at it. It is resting solely on the craziness of the story that has been posted on Reddit by somebody else. That's why we're getting also so many right-wing podcasts, because it's so easy to go the populist route. Just enraging the public can be so profitable. That's why we get so many people who troll. Who are really horrible influences on society, people who are producing absolute garbage and get pushed by the algorithms because the algorithm, for example, prefers, like, some algorithms, for example, prefer really rigid structure. And by structure, I mean the combination of format of the podcast, of the video, of whatever you're producing, combined with the topics being very similar. So you're kind of signing up to regurgitating yourself for fucking years. Unless you get lucky once, like for example, getting viral in one way or another. But again, it's a double-edged sword because for many guys on this platform, to go viral is a good thing. For many people who are of any marginalized group, it's kind of a nightmare at the same time, because sometimes you get too well known while not making enough money off of it to be able to afford security. And by security, I don't mean like a guy walking around with you like a bodyguard or some shit like that. I just mean like having a secure place to live. And if you're wondering what the fuck does Spotify do and why I am going through all this trouble, you know, of cutting off literal like millions upon millions of viewers that could potentially stumble upon our podcast, because it is a big platform that does provide huge exposure opportunities, it's because they're quite literally giving so much money to a military defense company, or basically arms manufacturer. Daniel Ek, that little fucker, don't know where he's from, little bitch. Oh, Sweden. All right. So Daniel Ek, he basically funded a new investment into AI military defense company Helsing. Based in Germany, Helsing develops AI tools for military use. Like ex-investment firm Prima Materia has acted as lead investor in the latest round of funding for its activities. The deal marks one of Europe's largest defense technology investment to date. Turns out he has contributed 100 million euros already to Helsing in 2021, and now he's doubling down in 2025 with 600 million euros, by the way. So that's like what, 1,200,000,000 or so Canadian dollars? Just so you get the picture. The world is being tested in more ways than before, he said. That has sped up the timeline. There's an enormous realization that it's really now AI that is driving the new battlefield. We can't understate the implications of that for this conflict in Ukraine, or really any conflict going forward. The fact that us listening to music or podcast is funding rapid militarization, and the fact that they're using drones now, and the fact that they're trying to use robots and stuff like that to be on battlefields is really, really disturbing, because who do you blame when it's a machine doing it? The person who told the machine to do it? It's really hard. They're basically creating distance, even more distance than they used to have. They used to have distance already because soldiers would be doing their dirty work and they would just be sitting back. They were using regular population to go into the military by basically making it very expensive to not be in the military if you're poor. We're in a situation where they're creating even more distance between themselves and the fucking atrocities they're committing. How are we going to deal with this? One thing I know for sure is that this episode is not going to be going up on Spotify. This is so... Can't even listen to music without contributing to fucking drones. It's so fucking tiring. I genuinely, I don't know, you guys. It's just fucking insufferable. Basically, if you have any suggestions, if you know things about RSS feeds, if you know anything, I don't know, maybe we're gonna become YouTube exclusive or YouTube and Patreon exclusive. I don't know. I really can't decide for now. We'll see about that. Let me know if you have any ideas about it, if you are dealing with that ever, and if you have any experience. Let me actually do something funny. I don't know how that's supposed to fucking help, but I love this video. The spaghetti stained Tupperware when it sees you have leftovers. For those of you who are not watching the video version, it's this girl. I'm gonna turn on what she's saying, but visually she's got her mouth is stained with something that looks like, spaghetti stains.
Hey mama, you should definitely use me. I'm super clean, super normal. God forbid a guy get a little saucy. I think you should be with someone a little more experienced.
God forbid a guy gets a little saucy. It's so fucking funny. I love that video. Do I have anything else fun to show you? Mayhaps. So this is another TikTok by Matt the person. Your friend that doesn't fuck around.
Okay, but what are your thoughts on euthanasia? Don't even think about it. I won't be friends with anyone that owns a Labubu.
But it just made me feel really bad about myself.
If they ever say that to you again, they will have breathed their last breath.
If that's not me. Anyway, you guys, thanks for watching. You've got homework to tell me what to do with the Spotify thing and to tell me what to do with organizing shit, because we gotta, and by organizing shit, I don't mean like local organizations, small scale. We need to fight the manufactured consent in masses. It's all chill. We're all good. Anyway, have a good day.